Canon EOS R6 is enthusiast and pro-level mirrorless camera that tries to fulfill needs of both photographers and videographers. So let's dive into it and see how it performs. When it comes to ergonomics, Canon knows its business well. Camera feels natural in hand. Grip is deep and well shaped, and the camera will feel off balance only with lenses of around 700 grams or more. There is a certain level of weather sealing, but not like on EOS R5. Still, I am not concerned about its capability to operate in bad weather, since my old 6D is also not labeled as being specifically weather sealed, and it survived to this day in all kinds of bad weather. R6 can only be better. Direct controls are numerous and logically placed. Joystick is present, and this is by far my favorite way of selecting focus points on any camera. I especially like triple dials for direct exposure settings. I am usually in aperture priority mode, so aperture will be controlled with front dial, exposure compensation with back dial, and top dial gives me direct control over ISO value without the need to press any buttons before adjusting it. Perfect. Several buttons can be reassigned, but with a catch. Unlike other brands which will offer to assign pretty much any camera function to any button, Canon has no such option. Yes, there are 20 or 30 options available, but still not enough. For example, I would like direct access to white balance, light metering modes, and image stabilization, but these are not offered. To control IBIS with a non-stabilized lens attached, I need to go to main menu every single time, and white balance and metering are accessible through the quick menu only. White balance is actually offered in this another small multi-menu brought up by MFN button, but this is still not direct access. In any way, at least a couple of button presses to get to them. At least you can assign different functions for each button separately for still image and video modes. Since 5D Mark IV, Canon has built-in software control for exposure longer than 30 seconds. Previously you needed wired remote control to use them, but now it is just a matter of setting it up in the menu system. Long exposure landscape shooters will be specially pleased with this. Light metering options lack highlight weighted metering. I am used to it so much on my Panasonic G9 that I immediately felt it is missing here. Not a big deal for everyone, but can be a real lifesaver in some situations. In-body stabilization in Canon camera. This sentence still feels surreal. Believe it or not, it is here and works splendidly just like an EOS R5. It can work in combination with in-lens IS to achieve even greater effect, but what I like more is the fact all lenses attached are now stabilized. When it comes to Canon EF lenses or third-party EF glass like Sigma or anything with electronic communication, camera will automatically recognize focal length and adjust IBIS performance accordingly. For legacy mechanical lenses used with adapter, you can select focal length manually. Image quality is excellent, but R6 shares its sensor with 1DX Mark III, so this is not a surprise. Familiar Canon colors are here, neutral by default, and easily saturate in post without weird color casts. High ISO is superb, in my opinion fully usable up to 25,600, but this is kind of subjective. Dynamic range is also quite good, maybe not absolute top as some Sony sensors are still better, but in real life photos all the shadow pulling I wanted to do, I could. With original Canon EF to RF adapter, lens functionality is flawless. In fact, finally you can focus anywhere in the frame with your old EF glass, and accuracy is way beyond what was possible on any DSLR, and that includes top of the range 1DX Mark III. R6 sees better in the dark than your own eyes ever could. Honestly, with performance like this, unless you have a clear reason to keep using DSLR, there is no point in it anymore. Mirrorless cameras have now surpassed what is technically possible on DSLR. From my perspective, autofocus is pretty much perfect. It is extremely accurate and works in surprisingly low light situations. There is a bunch of various focus point sizes and area coverage. Those that you do not like or need can be turned off in the setup menu. Face and eye recognition work flawlessly. I especially like how you can use single point mode all the time and assign face detection to one of the buttons. Camera will use selected point when you activate focus, but if you press button for face detection, it will ignore previous point, find the face anywhere in the frame, and focus on the person. After that, it is back to previous single point. Great stuff if you need to quickly focus on a person in the middle of shooting something else. Video performance is on a quite high level. R6 shoots 4K 60p almost uncropped. It has just 1.07 times crop, which is basically irrelevant in real-life use. If you plan to use digital stabilization, more crop will be applied, but this is how digital stabilization works. If you shoot a lot of handheld footage, chances are you already have a gimbal anyways. There are also two C-Log modes which top out at 4x2x2 10-bit internal footage. Zebra is available, but for movie mode only. I would like to use it for photography as well, but no luck. Settings are stored differently for dedicated movie mode selectable on mode dial, and do not match settings applied when you just press video recording button when in some of the still image modes. I learned that the hard way when selecting 4K video resolution in still image mode, then switched to movie mode to use manual settings. Camera was still in its out-of-the-box settings, which means full HD resolution in video mode, so I ended up with HD footage when I thought I was in 4K. Please double check all of that when you buy a new camera. Focus during video is first grade, accurate and with soft transitions, and does great with face detection. Video quality is excellent, very detailed and smooth with familiar Canon colors, just like still images. I had no problems with overheating, but if you use it for prolonged periods of time in warm climate, it could happen. No way of knowing how it will react until you try it in each particular usage scenario. LCD is fully articulated with perfectly functional touch control for any camera aspect. Viewing quality is superb. EVF is nice and big. 3.69 million dots is plenty. More would be better, but is not crucial. This one is very nice in use. What I do not like is how the rubber eyepiece is not removable. It will get in the way of any prescription glasses user. All Canon SLRs had a removable one, so I don't see why this feature is not brought over to EOS R series. 2 card slots are available. Both are SD slots and both accept UHS 2 cards. In this way I like R6 better than R5 with its mismatched SD and CF Express ports. A well-known LPE6NH battery is used. This type of battery is used in all Canon enthusiast and pro level models apart from 1D series all the way from around 2008. If you are in the Canon system, it is highly probable you have a couple of these batteries already. Battery life was around 300 to 400 shots the way I use this camera. You can get significantly more if you shoot in burst mode. A complete set of ports is here: microphone and headphones, USB-C, micro HDMI and wired remote control input. USB-C allows to charge the battery inside the camera, but will not recognize all chargers. Basically you need the original one, which is pretty pricey, but people reported some generic chargers will work as well. Which ones? It's a lottery. When EOS 6D came out in 2012, it turned out to be the most rounded up Canon camera to date. Yes, people complained from start, but people will always complain of just about anything. That didn't stop 6D from becoming the camera Canon kept the longest in production, almost 5 years. That is because they got so much right with 6D. It had one of the best low-light sensors of its time and is still highly competitive in this regard. Has great color rendering, superb ergonomics, was smaller and lighter than 5D series, had superb low-light focusing for its time, with a highly sensitive central focus point and so on. It was a highly capable camera for its time and price point. And so 6D became a classic. 6D Mark II improved on many shortcomings of the original, but by that time there was way more competition, and since it even downgraded just slightly in high ISO and weaker color reproduction, it didn't achieve cult status of the first generation. And now we have the R6. Only things it shares with original 6D is resolution, battery and number 6 in model name. Everything else is worlds apart and works flawlessly. Focusing is superb, image quality top level in all aspects, video looks awesome. All that with familiar Canon Ergonomics, flawless compatibility with all EF lenses, and almost guaranteed durability. It even has long desired dual memory card slots. Basically, only things I can complain about are the lack of specific features like highlight weighted metering, inability to adjust certain options to certain buttons, and fully articulated LCD, since I prefer tilt LCD for the way I shoot. Those are pretty specific points and probably irrelevant for most of you. Actually, now that I think, there are no major weak points with R6 at all. It simply works and delivers at high performance level, similar to 6D almost a decade ago. And this is why I regard the R6 as a spiritual 6D successor, and think it deserves full recommendations for pretty much any users. All you 6D classic users, look this way. This is the camera you have been waiting for. That's about it for this time. Check out various links in the description if you want to support me, and see you in the next video.